Hello everyone, welcome to my TransDEM tutorial for Trainz. TransDEM is a tool that will allow you to create a more realistic route based on elevation data, vector data, and it's a really handy tool for making prototypical routes for trains. And if you're not a train person, prototypical typically means like it's another word for realistic, I guess. We call realistic things in the model railway world and virtual railway world prototypical when they're as realistic as possible. And what better way to do it than using TransDEM to get accurate portrayals of real life? So, first thing I'm going to do is show you the route we're going to do today. Obviously, I'm not going to do a complete route. This is going to be a kind of a getting started thing. I'm not an expert at this tool. I've only had it for a few days, but I really found there was a lack of easy to follow YouTube tutorials. There's really good documentation in the manuals that come with the tool, but I kind of wanted to make a video here to help the newbies out like I am. So we're going to do this route in Nova Scotia, which is my home province in Canada. You can see it there on the east coast. And it's a very long route. Let's see, it is, if we do from Truro down to Halifax, which is the capital of Nova Scotia, it's just under 100 kilometers. So that's a fairly decent sized Trainz route. And the reason I'm doing a large one is I wanted to demonstrate joining two DEM tiles together, and DEM is digital elevation map, I think is what it stands for. That's basically the height of the topography and stuff like that of the land. So what we're gonna do is minimize Google Earth and switch over to TransDEM. And the first step we needed to do is start with the raster map. Now, I'm making some assumptions here. The map tile servers, there is a section in, like, if you just open the program and go here, this will all be blank. Like, see, I have all these providers in here. I think by default, it's all blank. You need to go in here and import this. And there's a sample file that comes with the package that you will receive when you purchase TransDEM. And I think it's this one here. But anyway, you'll have to read the documentation that comes with the program. I can bring that up. Where is it at? Second here, I'm on my other monitor. Program files, Ziegler tools, documentation. So this is the path, and you'll see TransDEM English and TransDEM Trainz English. So this is kind of an overview of the program itself in I guess a generic terms. And then this is some Trainz specific information that you might want to follow. So take a look through both of those. I guess if you start with this one, it has like some sections near the top that show you how to configure the program. So anyway, we'll go provider, and we want to do OpenStreetMap. Tile type, you can do map, or you can do transport. If you do transport, I find it puts an overlay of, like, you need an API key or something like that. So I guess we'll just stick with map for now. And then you want to left click with this little plus cursor here and keep clicking until you get to the area that you want to map. You can see I think the red would be highways, and then you can see the black here should be railways. So we're pretty close here now. It's too far. Right click to zoom back out. I guess this is what we're going to have to do here. We got Truro here, we got Halifax here, so we should be good. So now what you want to do is click this little right arrow, and it'll copy the settings over to here. It copies the latitude, the longitude, the zoom level from here, and then just click Get Map. Tile, just leave it as the same, the default name. You can leave the default, everything here, just click Save. Now, it's worth noting the way this program works. It's not, you don't really work in things like a project. Like, once you get different things going, like the DEM and the raster maps and vector data for your railways and roads and stuff like that, there's not really a way to save it as an entire project as far as I know. What happens is you save it like all these different files. You'll end up with all different files for different things, and since they're all I guess geo-referenced or whatever you call it, like every point on these knows exactly where it is in the world. So all you have to do is reopen these files in like a fresh TransDEM window, and it will layer them all perfectly how they were before. So you don't really have to save and load projects. You can just work with the files individually. So now the first step we have to do after I guess the second step is we have to hold Control and mouse wheel down to zoom in, and then mouse wheel out is to zoom out. So you can zoom in like this, and then you can use the scroll bars on the sides to scroll around, or you can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard. One feature I would like is if you could like hold the middle mouse button or something and drag. That'd be a nice feature. So the first thing we need to do once we get into here is try to get our whole route. I'm not going to get the whole route on here. That's kind of awkward. Just can't quite get the whole thing in here. Okay. So this button here, Activate Simple Route Editor. You can also get to it under Route. Simple Route Editor. Click it there. So this turns on the route editor. And then we click this button here, Create a New Polyline with Mouse. Basically what this is going to do is you're going to left click where you want your route to start. Now this doesn't have to be super accurate. So we're just going to kind of ballpark the way the route goes. Like obviously, you know, this is super inaccurate. You would never really use this for laying track. You're basically just telling the program where your route roughly is going to go. So I can see here, I don't know if I can zoom in while I'm laying this. I think I can. Yes, okay. So then we're going to go this way, and we're going to wrap down around here. I can't see what's behind the D, so we'll just go this way. That, and then we press escape, and then I'm going to make another one. Click this button again, and it looks like it goes down here. And it goes around here. And then there's another way, a little bit of it goes down through here. And then you can zoom in, I believe, and you can click on these, and then you can click and drag these lines back up to here. So any point you don't have to be in the poly tool, you can just left click and drag any one of these points. Now the only problem is this is really blurry, but we're going to fix that in a second. So now we have our basic route. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to save this. So I'm going to go turn off the Activate Simple Route Editor. So click it now, it's off. Route, save route. Just keep the defaults. Okay, and I'm gonna call this base route, I guess. Okay, so I'll show you here in a second why this is important. We're gonna go back up here, raster map. We're gonna go back to the map tile servers, and now it's going to recognize that we have this route loaded, right? Even though it's, you know, it's got multiple lines to it, it still considers it a route. So now we go like this. We want to zoom in so we get the detail that we want. Oh, off in the cabbage here. So I'm going to zoom in to Halifax. Maybe 14. I think 14 is pretty common. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be downloading this information for the entire path of our route. So we want to do, let's see, if we put this Okay, back over like this. So click the right arrow. You can see the zoom level there is 14. You can go higher if you want. It's just going to make more data, I guess. And then we want to do under mode, map images along path. So this is our path. The route that we just traced from Truro to Halifax, this is our path. And I think that should all be good. So we click Get Maps and we watch this progress bar go across. Well, we have to save it first. So I'll just keep the default name, save. And now it's going to go to OpenStreetMap and it's going to download each little section of this map information for our entire route. Now this is going to go faster for a typical route. I mean, most Trainz routes probably aren't 100 kilometers long. So if you're doing, you know, like a 20-kilometer route, this would be pretty quick. I'll probably fast forward this part. All right, we're done here, so we'll close this. Now we can see that it's gotten rid of the entire overlay of the province, and now we're left with like an actual close-up representation of our route. So this is what we're actually going to be working with. So now if we zoom in, we can actually see like our path doesn't line up with the railroad, but that's no big deal. So what these are going to become is they're called UTM overlays, or overlays. I don't know if they're UTM tile objects. So basically it will create Trainz assets out of these, and we'll actually put them into Surveyor for you, so you can use these to overlay your roads and buildings or whatever other information you need. So we can use the mouse wheel, we can scroll down. You can see that we have coverage along the entire route, and I think we're good to go. Okay, so we'll zoom back out. Oh, too far. Oh, that always throws me off because the mouse wheel down is to zoom in, and I'm used to being the other way around. Usually mouse wheel up, so it's control mouse wheel will zoom in and out. It should be, I think it should be control mouse wheel up to zoom in, and maybe you can change that in the options, but I haven't seen it. So next step we're going to do is the DEM, which is the elevation data. So there's links to the stuff. I'll put them in the description. But what we really want to use, it's called SRTM. So it's Shuttle Radar Topography Mission. It's basically a mission that the Space Shuttle did probably a long time ago. And it scanned the Earth with radar and gave you a baseline of elevation data for basically the entire planet. So you'll go here, you'll pick your continent. We're in North America, obviously. And then this is where you get kind of confused because there's just a list of hundreds of files. So what we need to do is you can do this in TransDEM. So you go File, File Name Info srtm.hgt. So this is going to tell you the files that you should download to cover your map. So as you can see, it's telling me to download a ton of files. And I think that's because my initial map was really large, like it was most of Nova Scotia, and it doesn't really know that I trimmed it down. Like you're supposed to be able to, I think, like you can drag a box around it like this, and then you can use the snipping tools or something, but it's always grayed out for me, so I'm not sure how to fix this. But I'll show you a workaround in case this also happens to you. This won't happen if you're doing smaller routes, but I have a website here. I'll put a link in the description. It's basically an overlay of all the tiles for the planet they're available. So we'll zoom in on Nova Scotia, right? And then I know, because I can actually see there, it does show the overlays here, but we can see that we have two tiles that we need. We have Truro up here, and then we go straight down to Halifax. So if we click on it, it gives us the name of the tile right here. So we take this, we can copy it, and then we can go over here. We can Control F, Control V to paste it in, and there we go. This is the file we need. And then I believe we also need the one below it. So we have 45W064 and then 44W064. So obviously the N44, so this would be 43, 44, 45, 46, right? 46, 45, 44, 43. I think I had them backwards. And then obviously the opposite, 65 would be this one, and then 66, 64, damn it, and then 63. So you get the point. It's a grid. So I already have these downloaded into this folder. You can leave them in zip files. And what we're going to do now is we go file/dem, open dem. This is all the stuff I did before making this video. I've been playing with this a lot lately. So we got the 64, the 40, they're both 64 actually. So 44, open. And then I think it detects the grid width. SRTM typically is 70 meters between points. So the lower this number is, the more detailed it is. So picture this. Picture, say each one of these purple, the points where these purple lines intersect is the grid width. I mean, technically, yeah, that's exactly what this is. But each point would be a point of elevation data. So it would be like, say this point is 10 meters high, and then this one is 20 meters high, this one's 30 meters high. It knows that it's going to be a slope going upwards from here to there. And the closer you can get these points together, the more detail, the more resolution you're going to have. So your hills will be more accurate. It's really, you really want to have this for high resolution or like low meter width, low grid width for like stuff like a mountainous terrain. If you're in maybe the Midwest or the prairies in Canada, you probably don't need super accurate elevation data because it's typically flat. But the lower this number is, the better. I think you can get DEM sources in Canada from the government that's down to like 3 meters or something. I might be able to do a separate video on that because I have played with that. But we're just going to stick with SRTM right now because it can apply to everybody on the planet. So we'll keep the default there and click OK. And there we go. You can see the terrain elevation data for the southern part of our route. So now what we have to do is we have to save this. Save DEM. And I'm in the right folder, so just save. Okay. And then we have to open DEM again. Now, it will close the existing one. That's fine. So click yes. You can only have one of these open at a time. So the one that we just saved was 4464, so we want to open 4564. Okay, that's going to open the top half. And then we save this one. So basically what we're doing is we're opening the file from the SRTM raw file. And then TransDEM is kind of reinterpreting it to its own format or to a better format, I guess. And then that's what we do when we save it. We're saving the converted format. So now what we can do is reopen this. Yes. So we want to do 44, open. And then we're going to go File, Add DEM, 45. So now we have 2, and they're basically added as 1. And that's really all we need to do for the DEM stuff. Now you zoom in, and it looks like some zoom levels don't render properly. I don't know if that's just because of the file I'm using or what. So now we have a basic path, we have the overlaid tiles, and we have the DEM data. So now this comes the fun part. You could pretty much, I mean, if you wanted to, you could export this as it is and then lay your own track by hand. But we're lazy. We want to go into OpenStreetView and we want to generate everything automatically. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be like, you can't just generate this stuff and then have a finished route. It's going to be a rough draft. So you're pretty much going to have to relay all the track that it generates, but it gives you a really good idea of how everything's laid out. So we have this tool called, I can't remember what it's called, JOSM. This is a download from OpenStreetView.de, I think, which I believe should be an official site. JOSM, what does it stand for? I don't know, but it will tell me when I open it. So you require Java to run this, so you have to go to java.com, download that. You probably already have it, but right-click it, open with Java. By default, mine wants to open with an archiver, so make sure you right-click and open with. Java OpenStreetMap Editor. Okay. So now what we have to do is we need to take this route, and we have to, actually I already saved it, didn't I? I did save it, so I don't think it has to be, does it have to be in a different format? I can't remember. We'll see. We have to open it in this, so we'll see if it opens. If not, we'll have to convert it to something else. Okay, let me get to the right folder here. Okay, so it has to be in a GPX format. So we have to go route, save route as, okay. And then we're going to do base route GPS exchange file. I don't know what the difference is. Yes, we don't need elevation data. Doesn't really matter. You're not really, it's a very specific, it's a very generic thing that we're doing with this. So we open it now. There we go. We have our path loaded into JOSM. So this one, you zoom in, mouse up. You don't have to hold control or anything. Zoom out with mouse down. Right click and drag will pan your view around. And that's, you can left click to select things. I think you can drag boxes around, but I don't have anything loaded technically, so it's not really showing me anything. So you have your, if you don't have any of these over here, this stuff you won't have this, so we'll have to turn on filter. And I've created all these, so we'll just delete these actually. Delete these. I was going to do these earlier, but I forgot. So you will have this when you start. And you need layers. I don't think you need tags or membership. Selection, relations, filter. You can turn these on and off through here, so you can configure yours how you need to. But the most important one right now is layers. So we have our base underscore route GPX, which is the file that we exported from TransDEM and that we just opened with this program. So you right click it and you want to download from OSM along this track. So it's kind of doing the same thing that we did in TransDEM, where it followed the path and it downloaded all the information around the path. So we click this, and then this is the information. Okay, first of all, this is based on a tutorial I found on the TransDEM forum before I get too far ahead of myself. This whole process is based on a tutorial on the TransDEM forum. I will link to it in the description as long as I don't forget. If I forget, leave a comment and I will link it, but it's based on someone else's information, and I'll link it in the description. So we do 500 meters, download everything within 500 meters, maximum area per request, 5 square kilometers, and track only, and OpenStreetMap data. Now, I think if you make these too large, it will error out and it won't download anything, because OpenStreetMap doesn't like it when you download too much data at once. So we click download, and then it's going to say it's going to download 30 individual things. So we click OK. And we wait. All right, so we're done downloading everything. So we'll zoom out and see what we ended up with. So you can see right here we have a break in the rail. And this seems to happen quite often. There's another break here. This one stops there, and there's a huge gap right here in the rail. So what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to create a filter so we can only see the rail. So here's a hint. If you click on any rail, it should be the same everywhere, but I'm not 100% sure it's the same for the entire planet. It might just be a Nova Scotia thing, but it should be for everything. It should be the same. So you want to look at the tags. So we can see here, key railway, value rail. So basically you can filter things based on any of these terms. So for example, we're going to make a filter based on railway that should only show us railway. And if you look at this road, I think there's a road over here. That might just be a boundary of some sort. Like this is probably a road. Highway primary. So we can make a filter for highway primary. Okay, first thing we're going to do, click add filter, and then we just click or type in railway and add the selection, submit filter. And at first it doesn't look like it does anything, but we need to tick these boxes. So this one is hiding filter. So I don't really know exactly what these do. So it looks like it's hidden now. So if you turn it on, it hides the railway. And then we want to click this and it inverts it. So it hides everything except the railway. So there you go. Zoom out and go down. Now we have basically only railway. We can click these little eyeball things to turn things on and off. So we're going to turn off our base route, which is the little purple thing. We turn it on. Oh, turn it off. I was double clicking for some reason. So now we only have railway. Now, one thing I like to do is, I don't know if you need to do this, but these land use things, I delete those because we want it to not have too much information on it. You can see there's another huge gap. It looks like anything with the hash or the diagonal lines on it is not downloaded. So you can see there's missing stuff here, missing stuff here. Although the track is there, there's missing stuff there. So here's what we have to do now. I don't know why it does this, but I've found a workaround for it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It's, you know, the whole purpose of downloading stuff through this path was so that we hit a perfect thing, but as is the case, it's not really going well. And I had this happen earlier, so I was prepared. So what we have to do, this button here, download map data from a server of your choice. So click download. It brings up this window here. So you can see download area too large will probably be rejected by the server. So what we have to do is we have to select smaller areas. And we can also click download as new layer, but I don't want to do that. I want to put it all in the existing data layer. So it does show you, I think, you can see these little white lines. Or white little, like you can kind of see this box has a different shade to it. This signifies that it's information that was downloaded. Now you'd think it would have downloaded more than that. But now that I think about it, it said it was downloading 30 things, and that's pretty much 30. So I don't know what kind of logic it uses to download this stuff. So basically what we have to do is drag boxes. So I want to download pretty much all of this city of Truro here. This is probably going to be too much, so we'll see what happens. It's going to give us a message if it's too much. So it says download size okay, probably size probably acceptable to the server. We click download. And it wasn't. Bad request. The area you tried to download is too big, your request was too large. So this is when they shake their finger at you and say download something smaller. So that means we have to try this again. We have to maybe divide this into two. So we'll say this half maybe. There we go. So we zoom out. Oh, too far. Oh yeah, that's right. It's filtered out, so you won't see it. But you can see it's got a black box around it. That means it's information that's been downloaded. And then you can't really get rid of this, so I just always make a small box off to the side. And now you can see that this lightly colored area has been downloaded. And you can overlap them, so a little bit. So I'll go just a little bit more this way maybe. And then download. And then we repeat this process the entire way down our line. Now, obviously, if you don't have a route that's this big, it's not going to take you so long. But I'm going to do it right quick here. And I'm going to fast forward through this so you don't have to watch me download all this. All right. I appear to have gotten everything downloaded. So one thing I'd like you to note is that I downloaded, you might probably watch in the time lapse where I kind of downloaded stuff that was kind of weird. What I'm doing is I wanted to get this main highway in the data so that I can make a vector out of it and get it into the route automatically. So like the railway goes this way, but the highway goes this way, and that might actually be too far from the rail to actually be in the route anyway, because you're only going to go so many baseboards to either side, so it might be out of range anyway, but it doesn't hurt to have it in this set of data. And let's see, we get the rail going through here. Oh, we should probably add this. And it's worth noting that when you get into detailed parts like this, your box has to be a little smaller or else you get errors. I think it's based on how complex the download's going to be. So now if we zoom out, we can see that we have our rail like that. And then if we turn off the filter, we can see this mess. So this is all the data that is downloaded. And it starts to get a little laggy, obviously. You can zoom in on it, you can see all kinds of different information, but it's like super detailed. Like every building basically is here. Now, obviously you can't, create buildings out of this stuff, but anyway. So we have our rail. So now here's the fun part. We have to, first of all, we're going to save this data. File, save as, I'll say OSM data. So this is basically a copy of all the data that we downloaded. So it renamed this as well, the layer. So now we don't have to download this all again. We saved a copy of it, so now it's all local. We have 747,000 objects hidden. So we have almost 1 million, I think they're points. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of stuff is on here. So we'll drag a box around this to highlight it all. And we want to edit, copy. You can also use Control-C on your keyboard. We want to do File, New Layer. You can name this whatever you want. The tutorial that I used for this says to call it like working or something like that. So now we want to paste it on this new layer. Now here's the thing. See how it goes off to the side like that? That's bad. The tutorial doesn't say anything about this, so I'm thinking maybe the newer versions of this program don't recenter things where they were before, or maybe there's an option that I'm not seeing. But here's what I do. I zoom in, actually here. So you mouse over, see how the icon kind of changed? I don't know if you can see that in the video or not. See, it's an arrow, then like a dashed box, but then you mouse over it and the dashed box gets like a dot in it. So once you have that, you can click and drag. And you can drag this around. Now it's copying like thousands of little points. So it's not the most super quick thing. So it's warning me that I'm moving more than 20 elements by far. So I was like, do you really want to do this? And I want to. So I'll say do not show again. You can say forever or this session. I usually just do this session because someday I might not want to do that. So we'll zoom in on, pick a point and zoom way in. So you can see this gray thing is from the layer below it. See how it's still turned on? So if I turn that off, it disappears. So we can use that as our alignment. So we can click on this and drag it down and fire it back on top of this one. Okay, and then you zoom in a little bit more. You can also click any point on the line. So we can do this and just look at that dot on the end, and then we want to put it right on top of it. Or as close as we can get it. There. And then we'll go like the other side of the route somewhere. And we'll check a dot over here. This one looks good. I think we're good. We don't see anything poking out below it. Yep. So I just turn the top layer on and off to see what's below it. So we're good. So that's our railway. I don't know what this is. Something off on the side here. It's a railway bridge off by itself. So I want to, do I have these? Okay, I want to delete these things here. So this box here, land use railway, it's like a, I don't know, like a restricted zone or something like that. We don't want that. We can delete that. So just delete on your keyboard. I'll turn this off so we don't get confused. So that one's gone. It also marks these things like this is like a tunnel or something. Oh, that's a bridge. It marks the bridges, but I don't think TransDEM or Trainz does anything with that information. It's just gonna, you're just gonna get track. We'll go back down. I think there is a zone down here. There's one here. Via rail station Halifax. So we can delete this. And I know there's one over here. Autoport Limited. That's the where all the cars come in. They get loaded here. And there's probably more. But you'll want to go through your route, I think, and delete those. I don't know if anything will happen if you don't, but I just do it anyway. Okay. Any more over here? I don't think so. There's stuff like this. Highway, it's a footway. I don't know how that got in there. I guess it's because it's railway abandoned and then it was a footway. I don't know. Delete that. You'll find all kinds of stuff like that. What's this one? Abandoned railway. You can leave that in, I guess. You could probably make those like derelict track or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, this is good enough. So that's our railway line. So now we're going to come up here to the layer that we're working on, and we're going to right click it and save as. And we're going to change the file type to GPX. And this is what we used originally to open into this program. And we're going to call this, we'll just say OSM, OpenStreetMap Rails, or Railway, or you can do Vector Rails, whatever you want to do. Whatever makes you remember it. And then this stuff, just leave it default, export and save. Now we go back to TransDEM. So this route we don't need anymore. This is our base route. We can close all routes. So I can sort all the routes that are open. And now you want to open a route. And we want to do GPX files, OSM Rails. Open. There you go. There are our rails. So we'll scroll down, control mouse down to zoom in. Look at that. Look at that. There's all our rail yards already laid out. Now, obviously, it's, you know, it's only so accurate, right? These will function, but they're going to be ugly in the game. You'll see that in a few minutes. But it's a good starting point, which is the whole purpose of this. Is a good starting point for your route. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is, let's see. Do I have to save this? I think I have to. No, I don't have to save this because it's already saved from this program. The file formats are interchangeable, so I shouldn't have to save these again. So now what we're going to do, we are going to add another filter, and we're going to say highway, I think it's highway primary, space primary. So any lines that contain highway and primary, add to selection, submit filter. So now if I turn off the rail, and then I turn this on and this on, I think I have to move this down. No, wait, oh, turn this. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm on the wrong one. See, I'm on OSM Rails still. I want to be on OSM Data. So click over here, the checkbox. There we go. So I think we're on, let's see here. These are all the primary highways, I think. Sometimes you can get the railway to show up with them, and then you don't want that. Just trying to double check here. Okay, so that turned everything off. You're working with a lot of data here, so it takes a few seconds to turn things on and off. And I have a pretty good computer. Okay, so that fires everything on. Where even are the rails at? The rails should be where? I can't even zoom out right now. I think we're good. So we click on this, we're at highway, primary, max speed 50. It gives you the name of the street, Barrington Street. I don't know if I have that main road that I was following. I think that's this one, isn't it? I don't want the city, I want the road. No. Highway, primary. Highway 2. So we can use, see, Google Earth maybe to follow this along. That should be this one here, right? I don't want 2005 data. I want modern data. We want roads. And I saw it for a second. So that's 102. 214. 2, it's this one. So I would like to have this one. So let's do this. Let's turn the filters off so that everything is here. And it's a mess. Let's see. You can't even really see it. That's the problem. I think it's this one here. This blue one. 102. So it is called Highway Motorway. So if we do this, edit this. Can we edit it if it's grayed out? Highway Primary Motorway. I think that'll only show motorways though, will it not? Or it might not show anything. I think we need to make separate filters for each one. So let's do this. Motorway. Okay, so there's the motorway. Perfect. So now what we need to do select this, edit, copy, file, new layer, Control V to paste. You can do this with residential streets as well. I'm not going to do any more than the motorway actually. This is enough for the tutorial's sake. But I tried to do residential streets earlier and it was too much data, so it wouldn't export the information. So if you run into that, you might have to split your vectors into smaller areas. And these vectors, these are called vectors, I think. That's what I call them. Vectors can be roads, rails, they can be water, like shorelines. Basically, OpenStreetMap is just a database of vectors. And if you play flight simulators, you also know what vectors are. Because you get vectors, vector data for the entire planet, which gives you more accurate streams and lakes and coastlines and roads, rails, all that fun stuff. Okay, so if we go look up here, so this one's not connected to anything, so you might run into that. But like I said, this is a baseline. It's a starting point for your route. You'll obviously have to detail all the stuff yourself. You'll have to connect some roads and make bridges and stuff like that. Okay. So now you want to export this, save as. Make sure you select GPX because it won't, TransDEM won't open the OSM files. So we'll do OSM motorway. I don't call them motorways in Canada. I call them highways, but I guess that's just how they differentiate them. Export and save. So here's the thing: we cannot open. We do not want to open more than one type of route in the game or in TransDEM. So we have the rail open now. We do not want to open the highways at the same time. So we can close all routes, and then we can open route, and we can open the motorway one just to see if it looks like it's working, and it looks like it's working. There you go. Now you could also, I probably, if I was doing this myself, like to actually use in my route, I'd probably add the next layer of roads below this, like the less important roads, like the side roads. But for the sake of this tutorial, that's just repeating steps that you already know how to do now. So I think that's everything. So what we're going to do now is we're going to export this into Trainz. This is the fun part. Not really. It's actually not that bad. So make sure you have a box. So just click and drag a box around your route area. Kind of just tells the program the area that it's working with. And then these are the magic buttons for exporting the Trainz. So you'll need to have, so this does the DEM information. So this kind of makes like the, I guess the landmass for your route. This exports the overlays, which needs an extra tool. So you have to, I'll show you that in a second. And this exports your railroad and roads into splines. So the Trainz importer is here. There's a link to this in the manual, and if I remember, I will put a link in the description. But you're going to want this right here, the Trainz importer. And you're just going to drop this in any folder on your computer. I'll put it under Trainz-tools, Trainz importer, and then there's an exe file and some examples. You are going to want to configure that in your TransDEM. I can't remember where. Trainz global export parameters. Source folder for Trainz mesh XML importer. It's right here, so you'll click the folder there. And then you also have the path. I put, yours is probably going to be like C, app data, Trainz something or other, like the default path for this stuff. But I moved my content database to another solid state drive called F, and I made its own custom folder name, and then it's a subfolder called editing. So I can go to that right here. So this is your Trainz content regular folder, your backups, cache, libraries, local. This is basically your Trainz database. And you have an editing folder here. I don't know really what it is, but it seems like where you put your routes to import them. So I don't know. It says that to do that in the instructions, so that's what I did. Okay, so step 1. DEM data. Now I'm at a zoom level, I can't see it. You know, if I zoom in one stage, it'll show up. It doesn't really matter if you can see it or not. It's still there in the map. So we'll click this button. And this looks kind of daunting, but it's not too bad. A lot of these menus are already at the good settings. So I think this default is 2. I have it set to 3. And I think that's how far away from your rail or from your rail spline that it's going to generate baseboards. So you could probably do that too. And then 5 meter grid, I think if you're running on like Trainz 12 or higher, so Trainz 12, Tane, and Trainz 2019, I think you can just, I have it set to all. I think it's 5, I don't even know really what it does. It just seems like a good thing to set. Like a smaller, I don't know. It just seems like it's more detailed. I don't know if it's grid, like the grid lines that are painted on the thing, or if like it's the DEM information is 5 meters apart instead of like 15 or 30. So I say all. That's what I do. And then overlay bitmap, ground textures. This requires you to install, there's some files that come with TransDEM that you import into your Trainz database. So you import the CDP files and it gives you some extra textures and stuff like this. So if you check this box, it will actually paint like these tiles. It will actually physically paint those onto the train in the game. So it's really low resolution, but it's worth doing anyway. So the KUID, this should be your KUID, and then these numbers it automatically generates. This is the path where it's going to save it. And then the route we're going to call NS for Nova Scotia test. And that's NS, not Norfolk, Nova Scotia, not Norfolk Southern. Like I always see NS all the time on YouTube, and it's always Norfolk Southern. And I keep thinking it's Nova Scotia. And the region we're going to do is United States. It's Canada, but it's United States. This basically, I think, just tells it like things like what side of the road the cars drive on, stuff like that. I don't know if it works for, I wonder if that makes it's going to be miles per hour. But there's no Canada one, so I don't know what else you would do. Okay, and this is all, say, the default, and click OK. You'll see a little progress bar down here. This part's usually pretty quick. So I'll just fast forward through this. Okay, that's done. That only took a minute or two. Okay, now we're gonna do this part because this part takes a while. So what are we on now? We're on roads, I believe. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close all routes. I'm gonna reopen the OSM rails. We're gonna click this button, which is creates track splines from route vector data and adds them to the map. So you get this window pops up. Adopt terrain elevation. You want to leave that on. It just means that the rail is going to follow the contours of the terrain. And if you don't do that, probably bad things will happen. Object KUID. You want to change this. So track, because we're doing our rail vector data. And you can change this. You can add your own. So if you wanted to, I don't know what KUID this is probably a built-in from like a few Trainz versions ago or something like that. So, you could change this to, anything you want as long as it's a track spline. But I mean, you can use the in-game tools to replace the track anyway. So not a big deal. This will automatically place junction levers. So you probably want to leave that on, I think. I mean, I do. And then the layer name, I always changed this to TransDEM-Rails so that I can turn Rails on and off if I need to. And that's good. Then we click OK. This part is really quick. I just realized that my thing is outside of the bounds, but that's not a big deal because I'm not going to be using that part of the track anyway. Okay, so there's our rails. So we'll close this. Close all routes, and then route, open route, OSM motorway, open, and click this button again. Change track to road. And as you can see, you can do water and auxiliary. I'm thinking, I don't know how water would work because I guess, I don't know, river splines or something. And auxiliary is probably like power poles or something. Or anything you want that is spline based, I guess. You just have to give it the right KUID. So that's kind of neat. You could do like fences and stuff. So road, KUID. We probably don't want junction levers for roads. I don't know. I don't think it'll place those anyway for roads. But yeah, we're not gonna test fate here. Tempt fate. Roads. Actually, motorway. Actually, I'll just say highway. It only gives you so much space, and it's not gonna fit highway. So I just put HWI for highway. And up terrain height, terrain elevation, and okay. Okay, so there's our vector data. Now we have to do this one. This is a time-consuming one. So radius, 1 tiles. I guess 1 tile of the route, which would be, I guess in this case, actually, you know what I should do? I should close this route and open this route because I think it's based on this information. And then click this again. Creates UTM tiles. So we're going to default this back to 1024. And we're going to do 500 meter tiles. It depends on, I guess, how beastly your computer is. Because you can make these textures really big. I tried this earlier. This took forever to export, like almost an hour. And then I didn't really see a huge jump in quality. So I'm going to turn off, maybe it was this. I had this on too. I'm going to put this back to TGA, 1024. And in testing before, I found the 500 meter tile looked a lot cleaner than the 1000 meter tile. But I think you'll end up with 4 times as many because you think about it. A tile that's 500 meters wide is going to be 2 across to reach a 1000 meter tile. But it's also going to be 2 vertically. So you're basically, if you're looking at this, this is a 1000 meter tile. And you take 4 500 meter tiles inside. So you're basically quadrupling the amount of tiles that you have to generate. These are defaults. LOD threshold, I don't know what that means. I know like level of detail threshold. It's where it's going to render a lower quality. I don't know if it should be higher or lower to make it draw further. I'm not sure. TransDEM UTM for the layer. Map name NS test. And I think that's it. This part takes a while. So I'm going to hit OK here, and then I'm going to go do something else probably. All right, so we're finally done. You'll get a warning that looks like this, which is normal. That just basically means that See, baseboard for UTM tile not found. So I guess it's trying to. I wonder if that's. I want to say that's these areas out here that don't have any data. Maybe I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to. I don't think it affects anything. There are some weird issues, but I don't think it's due to this. So we hit OK on that. But I do want to show you something else in this menu that I forgot to mention. By default, these UTM tiles will be 2-dimensional, which means they're just these flat planes, like, I don't know, just flat pictures that will float above your route. Makes it kind of hard to work with. So I recommend you use the 3D tiles, and that will involve importing some content that comes with TransDEM. You have to import that into Trainz using the content manager. So you'll have to do that before this will work. And you also need to have that importer tool that I showed you before. I don't think you need the importer tool for the 2D tiles, just the 3D tiles. Okay, so that is everything exported. So now we're going to go into Trainz, and we're going to import this route. So we go to Manage Content. Now this is obviously Trainz 2019. Should be the same for Trainz. It should be the same for pretty much all Trainz versions because they're pretty good for better or worse at maintaining compatibility. So Manage Content. We'll go to My Content, which I don't have anything other than some saved sessions or saved games that I was working through. File, import content folder. And then you want to go to your content folder, editing. So this is where TransDEM exported this stuff. So this is the route, and then the scenery file is actually the UTM tiles. So we'll import this first. So select folder, and it goes through pretty quick. And you can see 183 megabytes for this route. And then we import content folder again, go back to Trainz content, editing, and then select the scenery folder, and then select folder. Now you want to delete the scenery folder and the NS test folder between exports. So some things will overwrite in the folder, but I find I just delete everything and re-export it all again. It keeps it cleaner. That way if something goes haywire, then I know that it wasn't because I didn't delete the folders. So you can see it's importing a ton of these files. So the only thing I don't like about it is it does make a bit of a mess out of the content manager, but it's a necessary evil. You only need them while you're creating the route, and then I guess when you're done you could remove them from the route somehow and then delete them from your content. I don't know how to do that. I'm a noob with Trainz content creation. I just saw a chance searching on YouTube. I couldn't find any decent tutorials, or maybe I wasn't searching properly. So there's probably some out there, but I figured I would make a tutorial. So done. Warnings. The warning is just a log file or something. So there's a log file in the scenery folder that it doesn't import, which is obvious because it's not a compatible format. So you can just ignore that. And then we're good to go. So now we go File, Start Game. Here we go, driver surveyor, and then we'll scroll over to NS test and edit route. Okay, so we're in, and we are where we at. You can see this is not a UTM overlay. There's a rail over here, I think. There's one of our rails. So this is what I meant when it paints on the ground. Now, I don't know why it does this. Like as I was saying earlier that there are some issues, but I don't think it was due to those warnings. And maybe it was, but there's obviously a baseboard here, so this wasn't missing. But even though it wasn't able to put the UTM tile on here, it still painted it on the ground. And it's actually, legible. I can actually read that. Highway was, I can't read that, 212 or something like that, 21 something. But you can see for the most part, you can see there's water here. There's something here. There's a road that goes along here. So here's a tile. Here's some tiles here. This is what they should look like. They're not super high resolution, but you can change the settings to make them look a little clearer, but I don't necessarily think you need to make them much clearer than they are. So let's see, we're going south, right? So we'll just zoom out. And we'll go down. There's a tile. No, it just isn't rendered yet, I think. There we go. There's the highway that we put in, and it didn't really use the right thing because we told it just to use roads, so we'd have to swap these out with some double lane roads or something. I don't know. And the railroad track is, I don't know where that is. Well, we go down here to Halifax. There's a yard there. So you can see it's not perfect. Like you can see there's a little bit of a spline join there and it made a turn. So obviously, you know, you can't, I mean, you could probably drive on a lot of the route down, but it's not bad. I see there's an error here. I wonder if that's just the UTM tile. So we can turn off UTM. Oh, wow. There's an entire baseboard missing here. Well, that's nice. I wonder why that happened. As you can see, it's not perfect, but not the end of the world. I mean, you could just add baseboards there, and you could, you know, continue that on. Not really a big deal. You will get issues like this, and like I said, I'm kind of new to this, or I am very new to this, so this could be something an experienced route builder will look at and be like, oh, this is what happened. So, but yeah, it does pretty good work. I turned this stuff off, so I'll turn that back on. I would like this to be a little clearer, so I would probably up the resolution a little bit, because it's really hard to see the roads here, and there's buildings here that you could see that you'd be able to, you know, use as guides for existing buildings. But as you can see, there's the layers here, so you can turn off the rails. And then there's nothing on the vector layer, but I did create it anyway. Typically that would be where it would put the roads and stuff. But we made our own layers. So highway, turn that off. Boom, those are gone. Route layer, I don't really think there's anything on that. That turns the cars off. But yeah, that's it. That's what you need to do to make at least a starting point for a route. This is a mess. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what happened here. I had an issue before where I lost some baseboards further north, but never in the city like this. I don't know. That was weird. I must have messed something up. But overall, we're doing pretty good. We have a good starting point. And it kind of sucks though, because this was where I was going to use as an example for something. Where did that go? It's over here. I guess we could still probably do it for the most part. Yeah, it's going to be kind of rough. So you can see the terrain like this. It did make, this is the smoothing I was talking about. It's like typically this rail yard should be flat, right? So this is because the SRTM data was only 70 meters. So it comes down a hill here, and then it just kind of continues the hill on because it didn't have enough data to know that this was flat. So if we go over to Google Maps, and we go, let's see, we go to satellite view, Larry Utech Boulevard, where was it at? There's that rail yard right there. So we zoom in on this, and then we hold, let's do it as a control, I think, and then we can zoom around like this. And this only works in like urban areas. So, you know, if you go too far out of the urban area, this isn't going to work. You're not going to get this photogrammetry like this. But it gives you a good idea of how this should look. Where's the game at here? If I turn this like that, like obviously it's messed up because this is like that. That kind of ruins, like this ruined my whole example. If I would have known, I wish I would have known that an hour ago. Let's maybe turn a little bit. You can see there's like 2 hills there. I mean, this might not be very representative because this data is not super accurate. Hold control and we can zoom. Yeah, see, you can't really see the hills because of the trees. But the point of showing you this is that if you're in an urban area like this, you can really see all the details along the side. Like you can see this road here is a little bit elevated. Like that. You can see there's a little bit of like rocky shoreline here. You can see, you know, the buildings. There's a university in here. You can see how the trees are laid out. You can kind of see how the rail yard's laid out. You can see there's a freight train actually going through here now. Well, it's actually probably stopped here. I think it probably wouldn't be able to take a photo of it if it was moving. You can actually see it's a CN logo by the look of it. You can almost see the CN on the front of it. You can see, like, you know, this is like that raised up a little bit. You can see all the layouts of the trees. If we go further downtown, you can see, you know, the shipyard. I'm kind of just showing you like how to use this as a reference. Although, just going to the site is good enough to use as a reference, I guess. You can see, you know, there's bridges here. You can see where all the landmarks are, like things that stick out. Like all these houses and stuff are unimportant. You want to get like the details, like, you know, the power plant there is a landmark for Halifax. And then you go further down, you have some signature buildings like these ones here. The Purdy's Wharf Towers, these white buildings here, these are landmarks. There's a casino here. But I don't think the rail goes this far down, so that's not really going to be an issue. Actually, I think it stops. Where's the Irving Shipyard at? I'm getting way off on a tangent here. I think the rail line stops here. So you're probably not going to have to worry about the downtown core over here for landmarks. So you really just have to worry about stuff over here. And then we have the other rail goes along the south end here. I think that's the south end. Into another container terminal here. And as you can see, the rail comes in through here. So it really helps you determine like how you're going to lay out like the container terminal and the rail. You can follow, like, the cool thing about this is the rail is in like this gully that goes all through the, like, the south of the city. Like I think that'd be kind of difficult to model. All the roads go across bridges. It's almost like a canal for the rail line. It's really neat. I'm kind of wanting to do an actual route of this, but I don't know. It might be above my skill level. I don't know how interesting it would be. So we can see here, let's see, let me go back. Where was I at? Okay, this is where I was at, the Rockingham Yard. So if we keep going up here further north, we'll see eventually this detailed 3D stuff will end at some point. I don't know how far out. There we go. So this is what you'll typically see. This is just flat Google Earth. You get the train data, so it's a help, and you get the, you know, the satellite overlay, but it's just on a whole other level to get this kind of detail. But like I said, you have to be in an urban area to get this kind of detail. Oh, I don't want Street View. I mean, that's another way I guess you could do it if you zoom into Street View. Like, that's pretty good too. I guess that's the ultimate detail. The thing that's no good about Street View is it's not three-dimensional. It's just a bunch of images, right? It's good for photo reference as long as your rail line is by a road. Anywho, I'm getting way off topic. That's my TransDEM tutorial. I hope it at least helps somebody. I know when I was, like I said before, when I was trying to figure out how to work it, it was kind of frustrating because it's a pretty daunting program. I couldn't find any decent YouTube tutorials. Or I really couldn't find any YouTube tutorials, to be honest with you. Maybe I was, like I said, maybe I was searching the wrong thing. I don't know. But I wanted to make a one-stop shop tutorial so that you can go from nothing to a somewhat functional route, at least, you know, one that, you know, you might have to fix it a little bit, but it's, you know, it's a lot less work to fix this than it would be to kind of do all this from scratch, if you know what I mean. Is that missing baseboards here too? No, I don't think so. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching and good luck with your routes. I will leave some links in the description for the tools and useful things that you might need. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to help. But like I said, I'm not a very experienced Trainz surveyor operator, so I may not be of much help, but I can try and clear anything up. If you have any questions, let me know. And thanks for watching.